In this video, you'll see me trying to survive on the second oldest server in all of Minecraft. The server is known as 2b2t. It's an anarchy server, which means there's no rules. Hacking, duplication glitches, griefing, and more, all of these things are perfectly allowed. And without a hack client and not having played this game in any serious capacity for over a decade, surviving's gonna be quite the challenge, I suspect. So join me, for I am an Ian, and this is my 2b2t survival challenge. After waiting an eternity in the queue, I found myself along a narrow pathway in complete darkness surrounded by lava casts, whereupon I would almost immediately lose my life due to a mixture of a lack of parkour skills and gravity. Thankfully, I'd find myself respawning somewhere where light actually existed, so I could see where the hell I was going this time. And where I found myself appeared to be a giant obsidian platform covered in snow and signs advertising someone's Discord server. Ignoring these in-game ads, I decided to start punching some nearby leaves I found floating in the air. I had assumed that all the logs had been harvested from this tree and that there were just some leaves waiting to despawn naturally. Hoping to get some sticks or food from them, I decided to start punching them, only to discover that there were still a few logs locked away behind the leaves. After I harvested as much wood as I could, I turned them into planks and created a crafting table and a wooden pick. I then used this wooden pickaxe to collect some cobblestone, which I then used to make some stone tools to help me out. I opted for a sword to help deal with any hostile mobs I found in the darkness, as well as some shovels in order to harvest the snow, since being able to scaffold my way around the map would probably be useful at some point, and since there's so much snow around me, some snow blocks would be the easiest of manners to do this. After collecting the snow I desired, I then proceeded to stash away some essentials in an ender chest just in case something went wrong and began crafting snow blocks. It was at this point I noticed another player by the name Professor John Smith nearby in diamond gear. At first, I thought I was about to die to some other player, but then he started crouching. He then tossed me a single lone shulker, which I immediately opened up and found... After thanking this stranger and being whispered words of encouragement, I proceeded to fly off with the elytra he gave me, but not before stashing some of the gear he gave me in the nearby ender chest, just in case something went wrong. By the way, did you know this is my first time using an elytra? Alright, third time's the charm. After I learned the hard way that you need a Totem of the Undying to be in your hand in order for them to save you from death, I proceeded to collect some of the gear I stashed away in an e-chest because apparently ender chests on 2b2t are scattered across its spawn similar to shit in a dog park. Inside this e-chest, I still had a netherite chestplate and a few other essentials. So after collecting my stuff, I soon began to wander aimlessly across the obsidian roads that made navigation possible in this chaotic hellscape. I would soon find another portal, but I would decide against using it altogether because while I do know that traveling through the nether in Minecraft is much faster than traveling the overworld, since each block you travel in a nether counts as 8 in the overworld, this is pretty public knowledge amongst anyone who has ever played the game before whatsoever. And while our first encounter with another player on this server was a net positive, to say the least, I knew there were plenty of people on this server that would kill me without a second thought just for the lulz. And since the nether is a well-known means of escaping the spawn region, I assumed any attempt to escape spawn through the nether would most likely end with me getting ganked by a bunch of PKers. Because, to be quite frank with you, if I was a PKer looking to kill clueless noobs, I'd be camping a nether. So instead of using the nether portal, I decided to collect some obsidian nearby that was blocking the road. After all, obsidian is the most durable block that you can realistically obtain in survival Minecraft, so having a few blocks of it on hand just in case could be useful at some point. I would then soon find a canal, partially frozen and made of obsidian. I would follow this canal on foot for a while until eventually I remembered I had some lumber inside the e-chest, which I would use to craft a cherry boat from. From here I sailed in relative peace with the sound of waterlogged undead and profanity-laden chat being my only company. That is, until I started getting ambushed by withers. Once this happened, I rode like my life depended on it. You know, because it did. Unfortunately for me, someone decided to do some trolling in this canal and managed to build an obsidian fence to obscure my way. Thankfully for me, however, whoever built this fence didn't think about the third dimension whatsoever, so I was able to simply swim under it after stashing my boat in the inventory, and even grabbed a few extra boats that someone had left behind. Once I resurfaced on the other side of the obsidian fence, I redeployed a boat and paddled like crazy until the wither's health bars were no longer cluttering my screen. And let me tell ya, that took a while. But even with the withers no longer an imminent threat, it was quite obvious from my surroundings that I was not in the clear just yet. After all, the only thing that didn't seem to be griefed whatsoever was the canal I was sailing down. Even the obsidian art that littered the sky was in various states of being griefed, so I continued down the canal, only slowing my pace occasionally in order to admire some of the obsidian art that was still recognizable as art. Eventually, I would find a roadside stop along the way. Inside this obsidian cube along the canal, I would find a griefed map art and a chest with a sign above promising food that had long been taken. Out of curiosity, I would try to reassemble the griefed map art to see what it was. As it turns out, it was a hot redhead with a trans flag. As I continued down the canal, I would find multiple other stops similar to this, some with the fully intact art, some with it completely replaced by other people's art, and other times the art would be replaced by other people leaving signs saying they were here. And while I would stop at these rest stops erratically along my journey, I really don't have much to say about them since, to be perfectly honest, not much happened here. I would head up to them hoping to find something interesting, find a mostly empty chest full of junk items, and then sometimes leave a sign behind to say I was there. It wouldn't be until I reached the 15k milestone that I started noticing my surroundings to resemble something worth exploring rather than a vacant crater. So after leaving a sign with my Minecraft username and the date I was there, I decided I was a safe enough distance from the spawn region in order to explore on foot instead of just sailing away on boat as fast as I could without speed hacks. And thus I decided to disembark from my vessel in order to explore what appeared to be a griefed cottage. I found a door in the dirt leading to a ladder in hopes that it might lead to something interesting, perhaps a section of the cottage that wasn't griefed, but instead it led directly to the epicenter of the crater where someone had placed explosives to destroy said cottage. I then explore a nearby melon farm and collect some food before deciding to sail further down the canal. Not long after, I would discover the map art of a truck, before discovering a lone bamboo plant growing in the wasteland. I opted to harvest this bamboo plant in order to plant more of it later, bring a little more life to this dead world, you know? From here, I would erratically plant bamboo and melons along the way as I traveled, until at the 20k milestone I discovered what appeared to be a giant obsidian statue obscured equal parts by render distance and lava casting. Apparently, whoever tried to grief this decided that trying to destroy all these obsidian blocks was too much trouble and decided to simply obscure it with cobblestone via lava casts. Still, I was quite impressed someone was able to build something this big in survival Minecraft. I stopped momentarily to admire the beauty of all this before sailing through the statue, and immediately afterwards I saw this red block in the air. Mistaking it for a shulker, I dismounted, a mistake that would soon nearly cost me my life. Once I dismounted and got close enough to the block to realize it was not a shulker, I was ambushed by the full force of a single lone creeper, whose explosive blast nearly killed me if not for my netherite chestplate. Naturally, I bravely ran away to my boat and continued my voyage. Sadly, safety would not be present as I progressed, as withers lingered in the lands ahead. Without hacks and minimal gear, and HP just barely restored at this point, the best option was to gun it as far as I could in hopes that the channels would eventually lead to something that looked more like the Shire and less like Mordor. Dolphins would eventually give me company as I continued down the canal, and once I reached the 25k marker, I would find the best map art I would find in my entire journey across 2B2T. It was around this point that I could start to make out the natural generation of the world whatsoever. Before this point, there had been so many builds and craters from other players interacting with the world that it was pretty much impossible to decipher what was originally here. But now, the world around me resembled more akin to a play pit of sand that had never been properly cleaned. Sure, your surroundings are a complete chaotic mess, but you could tell what it was supposed to look like originally. I would continue down along the canal alongside the dolphins until I stumbled across an igloo with a farm in its basement. I'd find some armor on its last legs inside the supply chests nearby and equip it since I had nothing else better to put in the slot, as well as steal some leather to create a helmet from. Within the tilled soil within the igloo, I would steal some carrots and replace them with watermelons. After leaving the igloo and resuming my maritime travels, I would almost immediately find one of my favorite sights whilst on 2B2T, a giant snowman someone built. Later on, I would find a lava cast seemingly cleaved in half by the canal itself. This was not the first time I saw a lava cast like this on my voyage, however this was unquestionably the most impressive due to its sheer size. I persevered further down the canal still, where I'd find a delightful house at the 33.33333 repeating of course milestone. It was here I discovered a delightful little house someone had planted next to the canal. After taking some cookies and cooked fish from inside the house, I decided to plant some bamboo outside to make it up to whoever built this place. Not long after this delightful little pit stop, I decided to travel on foot adjacent to the canal instead, planting bamboo as I go, until I found a good stop to build something for fun. I decided to build an igloo inside the artificial bamboo forest I had grown. I also plugged up the mine shaft of some previous player with ice that I had accidentally picked up while sailing in the canal. I'd take a moment to admire my work before deciding to depart the soon-to-be-demolished build. I'd travel further down the canal for a bit before deciding that I should log off soon, so I went away from the canal for a bit, and then decided to use the obsidian I collected earlier to build something to mark my grave, realizing there was a very high chance that I'd never log into this server again. As for what I built, well, I'll leave that for you guys to discover. After all, I want to leave a little bit of mystery in this world, after all. And so that concludes my time on 2B2T. Be sure to like the video if you did, let me know if you want to see more videos like this, comment what you want to see me cover in the future. I've been Ian, you have been you, thank you for watching.